It's kind of a beauty to failure, isn't there? Like, take this big dam, for instance. This thing was here for, I don't even know how long, but for even longer than that, I'm sure this thing has been split right down the middle. People literally poured, like, hours and hours of their life into making sure this thing would work and would be stable and would be here for a long time. It's just very quickly falling apart. And it was beautifully made. Big, solid, structured forms. It was probably perfect in its geometry and everything. Measured out just fine. Even had a little, I assume, some sort of water filtration system here. And if you can judge by the state of this little river here, it has done literally nothing in the time that it's been around. So, yeah. The video game project. I'm going to classify that as another little failure. Maybe not on the scale of this big old behemoth, but it's definitely something that kind of got out of my hands real quick. I intended for it to be this sort of 3 mile walk around my subdivision and end up right around here in this park that I'm in right now. Or at the very least, you make it through the midpoint. Main point, though, is that didn't really work out, and I apologize for that. I wish it had been able to, but I did get a number of things working. It was mostly all the systems in place that I needed to make that very quickly got out of scope. And I do want to show you those things, but as for now, yeah, kind of in the same status as this big old concrete thing here. Yeah, let's get into what we got. So what was the video game project? Or I guess I should say the 3 mile walk more so. Yeah, I don't know. It was a point and click adventure game, which not like a game where you're running around and jumping on stuff, climbing out, all sorts of junk. It's more in the vein of old computer games where, you click around, little guy will run around and interact with the environment and all that. Kind of in the vein of like Sam & Max or Telltale's adventure games. All sorts of events could happen, dangers, perils, funny events like that. It was also made for the Game Boy Color, which this neat little handheld I've got and have access to an engine for. And I've actually been able to test it on this fancy little cartridge called an EverDrive. It's been pretty nice. Yeah. And other than that, it was just intended to take you across like a 3 mile loop without my neighborhood, pretty much. As for the features of the game, it had about 20 different images with descriptions attached and extra thoughts as well. See that on the screen here. And had custom menus and animations set up. And there's just a general little story about trying to conquer this big old walk across the neighborhood. I thought it would be pretty nice and compelling for the most part. As for the custom images and animations and everything, I would make it in an open source software like Krita, as you see on the screen. And I could convert palettes down, shrink images down to all fit on the screen. It's pretty simple, actually. As for the actual game engine, you could implement pretty much whatever you wanted within the limitations of the Game Boy, and that's where I ran into those scope problems for the most part. Because you can implement all sorts of backgrounds, but you couldn't make them too detailed. And also setting up the perspective, I don't know why I went with a perspective view, but setting that up was a nightmare too. And also typing out the descriptions for view within the Game Boy kind of text viewer here that I made was not efficient to type up, and with the crunch for every other final I've had here, it's I'd say it'd be impossible to really get this done even within a week, I'd say. So, yeah. I'm going to show you what each of the images was and just talk about them. They're a bit crushed, they're meant for the system, and I took them on a device that would actually kind of crunch down the images for the Game Boy for the purpose of the project, and I don't know. I figured if I just presented them to you as like an essay or something, you wouldn't get all the context of it, so I'll at least give you this much in like an audio description of it. As for that, yeah. let's take a look at these images. This first image was of a mailbox down the street, which I think I crashed into a couple times because there's like a wooden board braced against it to keep it held up, and I thought it was really interesting and kind of like wabi-sabi-ish to just kind of reconstruct this mailbox without like replacing it. It's a perfectly fine mailbox. We got all this tape and stuff all over it just to make sure people don't hit it again. And it's kind of its fault of being at the bottom of like a hill, or I guess two hills. It's in a little valley there. But I just thought it was real neat that that was just kind of set up like that in the middle of the street. Second image, this view up the street, pretty much, in between this sort of small creek that used to be filled up, but now it's been dry for at least like 10 years, I'd say. You can see warning sign here, that's the most prominent bit. And you got the sky out here. It was an overcast day, and somehow I got decent pictures out of this thing, but yeah. Not too much to say there, other than I just kind of loved the composition. Looking up, it felt kind of almost surreal, I guess. Third image is a view into the creek, and this one I probably would have just had as a smaller anecdote in the game, just because you can't see so much into here. Like, you can barely even tell that this is a creek with how bit crunched it is, but yeah. Nice little details, nice everything, but yeah. This fourth image, though, is I think what I really would have chosen to highlight. It's this like RV with a log out there. I just thought like the distance of the RV being way back along this creek on the other side. There, across the creek is a house, like a person's house. It's like a whole log cabin sort of thing. But yeah, just this isolated RV just fascinated me. Just kind of just being there, because all the other houses and lots around the neighborhood are just so small, and then you have just like all this space just kind of not really being used around this creek, and then you just get this RV just all the way back there that you don't really see or think about when driving by. And I just kind of wanted to highlight that. This next image, though, is a newer house that came into the subdivision. It's, compared to most other houses in the neighborhood, it's like you got this rock yard, and you got like all this concrete stuff built out, like up to make kind of like a deck almost, but it's just like fully permanent. It's a really nice looking house, but this, okay, small anecdote actually. There's like this guy with this truck here that I hate, because he's always parked sideways, and it's just like, I don't know if there's like a feeling of contempt within this image as well, but it's just like looking up, judging it. It's just kind of this newer, modern sort of thing. I just always thought that was kind of fun viewpoint on it. On to image 6 now. This was, I think I think we get up the hill, and just in this overcast, I liked, one thing that this big crush camera could do really well was like highlight silhouettes. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of take a picture of, I guess, this connecting bit for the telephone wire, and I don't know, it just seemed very ominous and very almost melancholy in the overcast light. And I figured the kind of lower lighting conditions within the camera, or that the camera could pick up, really highlighted that. So I just like that. I don't know. Seventh image, stop sign, again going with the silhouette sort of thing going on here. It's like, just again looking up at it, kind of just getting this scary kind of vibe. Like the dangers, you almost think of like the danger of like, oh, what if someone doesn't stop at this intersection? Oh, that's so scary. How scary would it be if that happened, you know? And yeah, I don't know. I just, again, working with the overcast sky and the silhouette kind of features the camera. So yeah. Image number 8. This was probably another one that would have glossed over a bit, but I mean it's still pretty neat. You get this kind of view of the, I guess the oak trees kind of silhouette, kind of being blasted in through the light that the camera's able to pick up despite the overcast situation, and yeah, this isn't real nice. I don't know. I guess not really nice. It's kind of admittedly a crap photo, but you know, with working with the limitations of the camera, I thought it was at least a nice shot to pick up in the middle of it. But again, Probably would have just glossed over it within the game. Now this one, you can tell this was just me kind of seeing a car go by and taking the picture real quick because it's not lined up so great. But I don't know, I feel like it still conveys like the motion going on in this image. Like I don't know, it's kind of beautiful, like the smaller moment that was just captured there. Because there weren't a lot of cars going by on that day, and I thought, oh, here's this nice moment where there's just another car passing me by as I walk through this neighborhood. So I don't know. I thought that was fun. Let's see. On to image 10, about halfway through. This was, I think, me just kind of testing the camera against, I guess, the more natural bits of landscape within the neighborhood. I think it was just like this rock face where there were like trees in the background. You can't really tell, but you can kind of see the implication of like shadow and everything back there. I think it was just like either a bit of a tree knocked over, or it was like just bits of debris kind of stacked there, like tree limbs and stuff. I don't know, I just kind of thought that this like small bit of it was neat. It's like this untidy bit of nature as opposed to everything else in the neighborhood looking a bit more tidy in terms of the, I guess, landscaping. So yeah. Image 11, I love this shot. This is my favorite shot I think that I got for the project. This is just someone's American flag they hung up in front of their yard. You can't even see into their yard from where I was on the street because like they got this gate and it goes like pretty decent amount of ways into their property, and the only thing you can see is that gate and this flag. And I thought of just hanging up there center frame with the overcast sky. It was just so beautiful. And also, yeah, overcast sky. It was. I was scared it was gonna rain. I was concerned. Like, why did this guy not take their flag down? It was the weirdest thing. So I don't know. There's that. There's my favorite one. Image 12 though. This one, admittedly, pretty hard to make out. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was like a fence someone had along the road. I'm trying to remember where that exactly was. It was surely behind like someone's house. You can even see the kind of line that would go to the telephone pole. You know, that'd probably make more sense actually. That it was like the. Oh no, no. It was along the telephone poles. It was along a fence. I guess I just thought the fence would make a nice contrast to the natural background, and I assume in the game it would have been like, I don't know, just a nice little weird thing, just looking at this fence and being like, why is there a fence here? In most of the neighborhood, there's not a fence in most people's yards. There's some fences, but in this particular spot near my house, it's like, oh, this guy's got a fence made out of just good old like sticks and like barbed wire. It was, I guess, just a weird thought. I don't know. Image 13. Here's a view. Here's a bit of context. This house sits up on a spot that looks like it'd be so hard to drive to, because you gotta climb up this big hill. You're on the side of like a hill that's already going down, and you gotta take a sharp left up an even sharper bit. I don't think they even have a garage, and I don't think the house is even done being built. But it's just such a weird bit of architecture to me. I had to take a picture of this house. And that's the photo itself. I mean, it's nice to get this kind of sharp, high, bright white against the. I guess you can actually make out the trees and everything in this one. It just looks very. I don't want to say confused because I'm imbuing my experiences with the image itself, but just kind of. I don't know. Very other, very. Very much something you wouldn't want to come back to. There's my thoughts on that one. Number 14. I probably could have gotten a better shot of this house, but as the shot itself, just kind of playing with the expectations, like perspective in this one, because like expect every house to be kind of on a flat like surface in like a suburb, and it's a rural suburb, but still, kind of just see this house like buried way down in the hill, and you get the telephone pole kind of making you think twice about where exactly this house is supposed to be. A tree right in the way, also just kind of subverting expectation for what a house shot should be. Because it's mostly like trees in this shot, so I don't know, I just kind of like that. Probably second favorite shot And it's not very special. It's another telephone pole shot, but I just liked the perspective and the light I kind of got with the telephone pole just kind of having its wires really extend into the frame. And in the game, I probably would have had this be around a point where the character says, "Oh, I'm so tired of walking through this neighborhood. I'm halfway through, more than halfway through, or I guess less than halfway through, really." But it just would have been tired at this point. And I just kind of like that. Another house, another weird bit of perspective. Probably would gloss over this one, but as for actually saying things about it, yeah, just more of these weird driveways that go up so obnoxiously high and at such a steep and stupid angle. I just had to get a shot of this house. It looks so nice. It's almost abandoned looking. Like you can see kind of the implication of a garage and just this huge driveway. There's just nobody in the way on this driveway, or maybe everything's in the garage. I don't know. I just thought that was neat. 17. Another house shot, and again with the fences are usually a little bit rare in the neighborhood. So it's just this harsh fence, this harsh like cast iron looking fence, like fence posts and everything against this just nice little house. It's like, I don't know, elements of like security and like kind of suburban fear kind of enter my mind when seeing this image, and I'm just like, I don't know, I just find it really fascinating, that kind of contrast between like the paranoid scared vibe of just being out in the country and just having this fence and expecting it to do anything for anybody that would want to get past the fence. It just fascinates me. I don't know. 18. This one was just I think it was just a mailbox and like a yield sign, or just a warning of the street kind of vibe. Not too much to say on this one. I think the next shot, and I'll just move on right to it anyway. Shot 19, where you get a harsher view of this warning sign. Probably third favorite shot, just because of how dramatic it is. Like you can barely make out the shadow behind, or where the back of the sign is, pretty much. It's just like very dramatic, and you're like, what's behind the sign? I gotta know what the warning is. It's so intensive. And also unintentional, I just noticed this on the bottom left corner, but it kind of looks like it says hi in the pixels. That isn't relevant to the photo, but I just thought it was cute. I don't know. And then last shot that I managed to get, it was just one in the park, I think around like the main community center sort of area, and they have all these signs. It's just like, smile, you're on camera. And I just thought for the last photo I get, it would be very kind of, I don't know, very kitsch, very fun to just get this photo of the sign. And I don't know. I just liked it. You're on camera. Here's the camera. Yeah, very cute. I don't know. As for the actual progression of the game, you would, I guess after that last photo, when you get to the community center, you would go through the second half in the neighborhood where you have to climb back up instead of mostly climbing down at that point. And it would have been just like the struggle of like, oh, I gotta get home as the sky is getting darker, and like, oh, you're getting so tired, and oh, you're just sweating, and it's horrible. And I think one key moment would have been just like sitting and leaning against the stop sign at like particular, I guess like what do we call it, intersection, and just kind of breathing and sighing in and just being like, I'm so glad I went to do this, but also, oh man, this is such a harsh little journey. And I don't know, I thought that would have been a pretty nice moment. And when I do get the game done, that's a moment I'm gonna be excited to really share. But I hope this little illustration kind of suffices, I guess. So yeah, that's basically everything I had going on with the game. The photos, they all meant a lot to me. This whole subdivision means a lot to me, so I don't know. I hope you do get to see the game eventually at some point. Even if it's not done now, I'm sure I'll send you a version of it when I do have it done. But I mean, as for just kind of the aspects of failure and everything going on here, like, I don't know. It's nice to at least have this much here, because it's either this or nothing at the end of the day. I figured you deserve a little bit more than, like, basically no project at all, you know? Like, I've done okay in the class and everything, but still, I don't know, respect you enough to not just leave you hanging like that. And, yeah, I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and I hope you eventually enjoy the game. But as for that, that's about all I've got. Thanks for watching.